You're watching Big 12 now on ESPN Plus. A frigid day in Ames, Iowa, as the Cyclones of Iowa State welcome number 2, Baylor. A rare sight, limited capacity inside Hilton Coliseum, and what a New Year's matchup for Iowa State, welcoming one of the hottest teams in the country in the Baylor Bears.
Well, there's no question, Chucky. This Baylor group is elite. You look at their grouping of guard play, Jared Butler, Maceo Teague, and Davion Mitchell, as good as any guards that you'll see in the country. The bench is strong. They get after you defensively. This Baylor group has Final Four aspirations.
On the other side, Iowa State needs to play a nearly perfect game, and Rasir Bolton is their guy. He has to be big.
Well, he certainly has to be, and it's going to have to be better than he was against Jackson State, where he only had 6 points. He's going to have to be more of a scorer here today. Does a little bit of everything for this Iowa State team. Leads them in scoring, assists, leads the conference in field goal percentage. He's got to be effective scoring the ball today for Iowa State to have a chance at the upset.
Iowa State hasn't played in 2 weeks. They get a team that spent the last 17 weeks going into last season in the top 5 of the AP poll. Baylor controls the tip. They are 8-0 on the season, and it has just been dominant. Everything they've done, they've scored the ball. One of the best teams in the nation scoring, and that's Flo Thamba with an and-one chance.
Well, they do such a good job of moving you around the floor, switching sides with the basketball. And here, you run a little bit of a dribble weave and then a pick and roll. Flo Thamba rolling right to the basket. The help side defense late coming over. Beautiful pass, and Thamba now has an opportunity for a three-point play.
Flo Thamba, 6'10 junior from Congo. Iowa State sticking with this group for the 5th straight game. Darlin Stone-Dubar replaced Tyler Harris in the starting lineup in Game 3 as that shot got tipped from Bolton.
Great defense by Mark Vital, getting a hand up and deflecting that shot.
Butler off the mark, Dubar rebounds. That's one of the things Steve Prohm said they have to do is rebound well. Baylor's really good. First in the conference, plus 10 in the rebounding margin. Bolton to work. Davion Mitchell the other way quickly. Blocked. Great defensive play by Javen Johnson. What is it that we're seeing from Baylor different from a year ago that's putting up these ridiculous offensive numbers?
Well, I think that when you look at Baylor, their guards have all improved, and they were all really good last year. I think Steve Prohm was not happy about that last call, and I agreed with him. I think that was hit off Davion Mitchell. Nice play defensively by Javen Johnson. It's going to be huge today for Iowa State to get off to a good start. And defensively now, a couple breakdowns for them, but you think about all season, they've gotten off some slow starts, down 9-2 against Jackson State. That can't happen today against Baylor. The Bears just too explosive to overcome that type of start.
Solomon Young is really deep in the post. The left hand is good.
Really nice drive. Solomon Young understanding the matchup, just driving Flo Thamba right down that lane line.
Up and good. Baylor right back to work, and it's one of those starts again so far. 6-2 run for the Bears out of the gates. Rasir Bolton talked about it this week in an article in one of the local papers that they have to know their assignments better, understand what they have to do. That's been something just going into games. The game plan has not come naturally to them, and against Baylor, it can get out of hand quickly if you don't know what you're doing.
Well, Steve Prohm talked about this all week leading up to the game. You have to stop the basketball, and you have to keep Baylor out of rotation, or your defense against Baylor out of rotation. You keep getting beat, you have to help. You can't live in help. Help defense is obviously a part of what you're going to do defensively, but if you're constantly helping, these Baylor guards are going to pick you apart. Just on that possession, Davion Mitchell, simple ball screen, dribbles it right down the lane, wide open layup. Steve Prohm calling a timeout because obviously that's just not good enough.
Baylor second in the nation in points per game. There's Scott Drew, 18th year at Baylor, and we talk about every year, but what Scott Drew did with that program and where they were when he took over is unbelievable.
It's one of the best rebuilds in the history of college sports. I mean, you literally had a situation where there was a murder on your team, and not many guys wanted to take the job. Scott Drew had done a great job at Valpo. as the head coach taking over for his dad. And yeah, Chucky, he's done a phenomenal job here.
Inside the Thamba, running the floor. He's fouled and goes to the line for 2.
That's a beautiful look by Jared Butler. And Butler's played at an All-American level this season, but, man, you let Baylor get out in transition, you are asking for trouble, and sees the floor beautifully. Flo Thamba really running the floor, and Jared Butler rewarding his big.
I talked about it before we came today, but it blows my mind how unselfish this guard group was. And I mentioned to you, obviously you're scoring 95 points a game. Everybody can kind of get theirs, but at some point you get into conference play, you're not going to be scoring 90 points, but still they come off as such an unselfish group.
Well, everybody understands their role. And that's such a big part of being a good college basketball team. And I feel like when I played at Purdue, Matt Painter, every season at some point in the year, he'd go to the whiteboard and he'd write out your role. And I feel like with Baylor, all these guys totally understand what Scott Drew wants them to do.
Solomon Young again. He's got all 4 for Iowa State. Found a matchup he likes.
Just isolating Solomon Young at the elbow and letting him go to work.
That's too easy.
That's really poor defense. And Steve Prohm is really unhappy with the way Iowa State is guarded here through the first 2.5 minutes of this game. Baylor's a juggernaut offensively anyway. Right now, they're just letting them waltz in and do whatever they want.
Solomon Young just didn't have anything. There's a little bit of standing around. The one bright spot today for Iowa State, Trey Jackson is back. He's dealing with an injury to his left knee. He returns for the first time. Pull up 3. Good. Nice shot there from Jalen Coleman lands the transfer.
He has shot the ball much better over the last 4 games, and you could tell the whole way down he was going to let that fly, and dribbled up the court, did just that.
Butler steps back. Short, Bolton rebounds. Looking for some help. Johnson got caught in the air, and Solomon Young wasn't looking. Now Butler, and 1.
David Johnson has really had some issues turning the basketball over, and right there, you're just starting the break for Baylor. If you're Trey Jackson, if you're going to foul on this play, if you're going to foul Jared Butler, you got to actually foul him. Just a swipe down at the basketball, you graze him on the wrist, get a little bit of contact. That's as easy of an and 1 as you're going to have.
Jared Butler, preseason All-American, preseason Big 12 Player of the Year. Joins Pierre Jackson and Perry Jones III as the only 2 Baylor players to get that honor. Coming off an All-American season. And then we talked about it, you add in Davion Mitchell, Maceo Teague, Adam Flagler. Decent little crew. Solomon Young again.
He went right at Chama Chachua right there. That was a strong post move by Solomon Young, and so far he's been really good for Iowa State.
Taken away. Coleman lands, spinning, off balance, and stripped away by Butler. Hit the baseline. I gotta give you credit, you got Chama Chachua right the first time. Well done.
I've only been practicing it for the last 3 days. A really nice post move. Solomon Young just bringing the physicality right to Chama Chachua. See, you jinxed me. I was good, and then I messed it up there.
Javen Johnson, 3 ball.
They need him to be a third scorer here with Rasheer Bolton, Jalen Coleman lands, and certainly have Solomon Young in that mix as well. But Javen Johnson really struggled. Coming into today, just 1 of his last 10 from 3, a big shot. Iowa State did a nice job of weathering this early Baylor run.
Maceo Teague backing away. Johnson guarding. They're trying to go inside. A little bit of a mismatch here with Chama Chachua. Skips it across. Flagler. Pass was tipped. Great hustle by Trey Jackson, and Iowa State forces a turnover.
Much better help side defense there. Jalen Coleman lands is waiting for that post move. Good job, good hands on the weak side.
Ball on the floor, and Baylor comes away with it. Now the Bears have numbers. Butler lobs it up. Mark Vidal.
They are so explosive in transition, and it's just, you cannot turn the basketball over against this Baylor club. Baylor does a great job of forcing turnovers, but Iowa State not doing themselves any favors here early.
Foul called on Butler. Takes us to our first timeout.
Well, you turn the basketball over against this Baylor Bears ball club, you are starting to break. It's an NBA Jam type situation. Mark Vital going up and hammering this lob. Basketball over as good as anybody in the country. Have to expect him. He's been so good this year, and he was great last year, Chucky. But man, I've been really impressed with these Baylor guards. You feel like every one of them has made improvements in their game over the offseason.
Bolton trying to slide right off of Solomon Young. Now Johnson feeding inside, just forced it. The feet of Solomon Young.
And Solomon Young has no chance to catch that pass. And that's hitting him in the ankles. David Johnson, his turnover issues well documented. That's a really poor pass.
And a poor pass at this end by Matthew Meyer, seeing some of his first minutes of the day. State missed their first 2 field goal attempts. They're 5 of 6 since then. And the start you talked about was important. Maybe not the ideal start for them those first few minutes, but they've settled in nicely.
Well, they've had some breakdowns and they've turned the ball over some, but at the end of the day, you look at the score and it's just 15-12. Their offense, Solomon Young really got them off to a nice start.
Johnson steps back. Bolton, extra pass. Coleman lands. Off the marks. That would have moved him to 9th among active players in career 3-pointers in the NCAA.
That doesn't go, but that was a great possession. Multiple extra passes, and Jalen Coleman lands because as good of a look as he's going to get all day.
Matthew Meyer really didn't have anything. Takes it himself. How about that bucket?
When you think about this Baylor team, Chucky, Matthew Meyer is like the 7th guy, and he's making plays like that. As talented as anybody on this team, and Matthew Meyer getting to the basket, taking contact there by Rasheer Bolton, and that just shows you what kind of depth they have on this ball club. Matthew Meyer, a real player, and boy, only averaging just 9 points a game, but that's how talented this group is.
Super athlete. Can score it from really anywhere on the floor. Comes off the bench for Scott Drew. Bolton fouled on his way to the hoop. What is the recipe against Baylor defensively? They're so good as far as on-ball defense goes. What's the recipe to have success against them?
Well, yeah, you have to handle their ball pressure for sure. And right now you're seeing Jonathan Chamwa-Chachua really hard hedge on these ball screens. Rasheer Bolton's going to have some opportunities to find some teammates here. We talked about Iowa State needing to stay out of rotation. You can get Baylor's help side defense in rotation with the way they're guarding.
Meyer got his hands on that pass.
Really active hands. That was going to be an open shot. Matthew Meyer doing a good job with high hands.
Bobbing up top, too high. Mitchell thought there might have been a hold on Solomon Young, but Chamwa-Chachua had no chance at that.
Really physical with that pick and roll defense. And you're right, Chucky, that really impacted Chamwa-Chachua going up and getting that lob.
3 minutes without an Iowa State bucket. Trey Jackson. Coleman lands, skips it across to Bolton. Extra pass, Trey Jackson wide open, and it goes.
That's 100% what they just did, is get Baylor into a rotation. They were constantly scrambling there. Iowa State, really good ball movement. That ball is moving from side to side, and now Rasheer Bolton with the steal.
And Bolton flushes it. We're tied at 17. Can you imagine this place right now if it was full?
It's honestly sad, because this is one of the best venues in all of college basketball, but Iowa State's energy has been much better over the last 4 minutes. Davion Mitchell just showing you how effective he is. He does everything. He's a great defender. He can move the basketball, lead the league in assists, but also can really score it. He's had a phenomenal year.
Coleman lands, pulls up. That's a good look.
He can shoot the ball with some serious confidence. If you can make threes from the perimeter, that's going to open other things up. Playing off that closeout, getting your pull-up.
He's 18 threes on the season, leads the team. Shoots 42% from out there. That's off the mark, and the Cyclones have a chance to take their first lead of the game. They've really settled in. Some turnovers, but overall they look pretty comfortable offensively. Solomon Young, offensive.
That was played so well by Chama, crowding Solomon Young, not letting him shoot the 15-foot jumper, and then Young lowers his shoulder. Great defense there by Jonathan Chama. Rasir Bolton getting it done on the defensive end of the floor, getting out in transition, hanging on rim.
Well, before today's game, Steve Prohm honored with a commemorative ball for his 200th win. He picked that up against Arkansas Pine Bluff. He's at 201 now after they beat Jackson State on the 20th. But it's been almost an odd, tenure for Steve Prohm here. He's had some very big successes, but he had, what he could have had this year or even last year with some of the guys that left that maybe we didn't think would, and now it's obviously looking like really good decisions for guys like Taylor Horton-Tucker and Tyrese Halliburton, I think was a lock. But some of that stuff, he could have had some really good teams here the last couple of years.
No question. And I think when you recruit those guys, when you take Tyrese Halliburton, you have Taylor Horton-Tucker, certainly you think they're going to be good college players, but I'm not sure that Steve Prohm expected, as we see Matt Meyer going to the rack. Nice little back cut there. I don't think you could have planned for them to leave, and then when they do, it's a little bit of scramble mode. This is a really nice set by Scott Drew coming out of the timeout, and you talked about Matthew Meyer's athleticism earlier. Man, he's so talented, and Scott Drew, he talked about it last night with us, about how much he's matured and kind of finding his game here on a group where it could be hard to find your offensive rhythm because they've got so many options. But man, he's a real talent coming off the bench. Good to think, Chucky. Between Matthew Meyer and also Jonathan Chama, those guys would start for just about anybody in the country.
Going up top to Condit, who got his man in the air, and he'll go to the line for 2 shots. We talked about the depth for Baylor. For Iowa State, when you were at Purdue, was there ever moments in games, even against really good teams, where certain guys would come in and you think, okay, we got a little bit of a break here?
Well, I think that any good team, you're going to have a bench like that where they come in and they give you something. And when I was at Purdue, we certainly had that with some of those good teams I was on. But I think with this Baylor group, they have an elite group of guys coming off the bench. Adam Flagler, he can really score the basketball. We haven't really seen him do much of that here today, but man, they've got so many players coming off that bench. It's really impressive to see the group that Scott Drew has assembled.
Iowa State down just 1. This is, I have to think, going great for Steve Prohm standing on the sideline. And they've got a chance to take the lead. Coleman Lanslow, hesitation, lost control of it, and good job to recover by Bolton.
Well, Rasir Bolton on the defensive end making a great hustle play to get back in the play, and then bailing out Jalen Coleman Lands, who threw a hand grenade there. Could have easily been a pick 6.
George Condit's working hard inside. Johnson, pretty good look, and Iowa State has the lead.
I love that Javen Johnson just used his size, took his time, got into the paint, scored right over the top of the defense. A really nice take.
Meyer, Lothamba.
Coleman Lands is a help defender. It's really impacted this basketball game. He's doing a great job of coming over and helping on these Baylor actions.
4 to shoot. Davion Mitchell off the mark. Rebound Bolton, but we have a foul called.
That's about as good of a defensive possession as you're going to have. And Baylor shoots the ball at a really high level. They really come to the offensive glass. They get Jalen Coleman Lands for blocking out Mark Vidal.
That's tough for the Cyclones. You defend for that long and get a missed shot, and the officials are going to the table to look at something. John Higgins, Antonio Petty, Jeff Malum. We're going to look and see if there was an elbow here from Coleman Lands.
I'm not even sure that's a foul.
Yeah.
I think it's a block out, but to me, Mark Vidal sells that pretty well. It ends up getting the call, but I think that'd be a quick review, and since they called it a foul, it will be a common foul.
I think you're right. Just went to make contact and start the box out.
I mean, think about it. Jalen Coleman Lands. If you're going to block out Mark Vidal, he's coming to the offensive boards, and you've got to make a physical play. I think Mark Vidal did a nice job of selling that, but he just looked over here.
I thought he winked at you, too. I saw him. I think he just winked
hilarious.
at you.
Boy, he sold that one, and that confirms it right there.
He looked at Robbie, gave him a wink and a big smile. That is fantastic.
That is really funny.
He's at the line, 1-1.
I guess that's a situation of the ball doesn't lie right there.
Condit lays it up.
That's the type of energy that George Condit needs to play with. He did a nice job against West Virginia of coming in and playing with that type of energy, but they're running the floor, and the Iowa State guards really rewarding the big for doing just that.
Butler, nice feed to Thamba, and count the bucket.
Boy, Rasheer Bolton is the help side defender there, and he's just late coming over. Let's look at the transition bucket first. Really doing a nice job of finding a really nice pass through a tight window. George Condit running the floor, and then if you're Rasheer Bolton here, you're the weak side help defender. You've got to meet Flo Thamba outside the lane. At that point, you've got nothing. Really, your options are incredibly limited. You have to foul, and Thamba doing a nice job of playing through contact.
We're back even at 23 apiece. Big reason why direct this pass. Baylor leads the country in three-point field goal percentage. They're 0 for 4 today. That's one thing Steve Prohm told us in shoot-around yesterday is we have got to defend the three-pointer. My favorite part was I asked Steve Prohm, what are the biggest challenges Baylor face or poses to your team, and he kind of just looked down and laughed a little bit like, what challenges don't they pose?
Certainly a lot of issues that they bring to the table. Javen Johnson is handling the basketball right now, and Steve Prohm, he just told him, hey, I trust you. But Johnson has had issues turning the basketball over, and honestly, Iowa State fortunate they didn't turn the ball over right there.
No Jalen Coleman Lands or Bolton out there right now. An offensive foul called.
I know you're trying to get those guys a rest, but I'm not sure you can play Javen Johnson at the point, especially with Davion Mitchell guarding him. And that was textbook right here. Just moving his feet, staying in the play. And that's an easy call for the official.
Yeah, it feels like however long those two are out, this is a really important stretch for Iowa State. Stripped away, that goes off of Mitchell. Nice defensive play.
Tyler Harris did not quit on that play. Initially, Davion Mitchell with the blow-by. Harris stays in it and is able to knock it away from behind. Really nice effort there. You've got to contain the bounce, but the extra effort by Tyler Harris saving that play. Mark Vidal is locking up right now.
Back cut by Harris, handoff to Condit. That looked like there might have been some contact there. It got blocked on the second one. Condit saying, hey, throw that up for me next time, but it'll stay Cyclones ball.
A wise cut there by Tyler Harris. This ball pressure is really starting to impact this Cyclone offense, and Mark Vidal is flying around. I agree, Chuck. You felt like there was some contact initially, but Vidal coming over and blocking that shot.
Taken away. Butler and Mitchell combining. Maceo Teague steps in and put back by Chamwa Chachua, but they'll say it was still in the cylinder.
Jonathan Chamwa Chachua plays with such a high motor, and boy, that's about as close as you can get right there. Hard to tell from that angle if it was off the rim or not, but
I actually thought Condit might have gotten a piece of that.
Look at where Iowa State is running their offense from. Chamwa Chachua moving his feet, and again, boy, these Baylor defenders on the basketball are just wrecking havoc with Javen Johnson as a ball handler.
And that's 3 on Johnson. Bolton's going to have to come back in. I think Steve Prohm is saying, look, we're just going to have to do it. They've got 3 guys with 3 fouls right now. Bolton and Coleman Lands are 2 of them.
They're certainly in a precarious situation here with the foul trouble, but I'm just not sure they have the ball handlers to handle Baylor's pressure. Javen Johnson, you see what happens with the way they're heating the ball up. It was the guards, the bigs, everybody really pressuring him. Javen Johnson just playing a little too fast.
Johnson with 3, Bolton and Coleman Lands with 2 apiece. And they've got to go probably the next 7 minutes of this half without picking another one up, or they're in some deep trouble. Vidal takes it in strong over Bolton.
Right there, Roger Bolton, you can't foul. He struggled at times here today as that help side defender, and Baylor keeps finding ways to put him in that position. Right there, just got to let him score the ball because of the foul trouble.
Bolton wraps it into Solomon Young, looking for help. Coleman Lands in trouble. 5 to shoot. Solomon Young looks up at the shot clock. Tipped away. Another turnover.
You can feel Baylor has totally upped their level energy-wise on the defensive end of the floor. They are really pressuring these guards.
Up top, and a reckless pass. That's a really nice job by Trey Jackson. Bolton, they need something. Blocked away by Chamwa Chachua. Up to Butler. Jared Butler looking for help.
It's got to be 3 seconds.
There it is.
They can find that. Boy, this has felt like a little bit of an open gym type setting here. Nobody here in Hilton Coliseum, and boy, a little bit of raggedy basketball here. Baylor by 2.
Busy day for Iowa State fans who get basketball first against the number 2 team in the nation, and then a chance to win the Fiesta Bowl in a couple hours. But how about the Cyclones right now? It has not been pretty by any means, but they are in this game and playing with some real energy.
Well, they found a way to turn Baylor over. Baylor averaging just over 11 turnovers a game. They've been pretty good at taking care of the basketball this season, and right now they're sitting at 10. Both teams have turned the ball over at times, but Iowa State's defense has done a nice job of containing the basketball and really keeping their man in front of them for most of this first half.
High for turnovers in a game this year for Baylor is 20, and that came against Stephen F. Austin. Iowa State's is 21. We are on a pace for many more than that for both teams. Bolton and Coleman Lands both out there with 2 fouls. Solomon Young. Right hand hook shot. No. Darlinstone couldn't pull it down. Vidal rips it away. Baylor still looking for their first 3 of the game. Colin Harris trying to get around the screen. Easy call. John Higgins. Teague to the line in the double bonus. Maceo Teague, 6'4" senior from Cincinnati, Ohio. a couple years at UNC Asheville. They've got a nice little transfer line there from the Big South Conference with Flagler, who was the freshman of the year in that conference. Maceo Teague also was the freshman of the year. Had some good guards. Scott Drew has at Baylor, Pierre Jackson, Manu LeConte, handful of others, but as a group, I don't think he's ever had this type of guard play.
Not this elite guard play, I would say. Right there, you talk about elite guard play. Rasheer Bolton doing a great job. Baylor's trying to keep these ball screens to the side, and Bolton just doing a great job of getting back to the middle and understanding the Jonathan Chama is coming over to pin that thing on the board, getting some contact with him and drawing a foul. You talk about elite shot blockers. It's so important, especially as a smaller player, to go through that guy's chest, and Rasheer Bolton did just that.
Bolton came over last year from Penn State, averaged 15 a game, honorable mention, all Big 12. That was a really dangerous guard combination before Halliburton got hurt last year. The Baylor lead is just 2. Mitchell for 3. Still can't hit from downtown.
Iowa State's defense is really locked in here on these pick and rolls, and maybe most importantly, they've done a nice job on the defensive glass. Baylor, one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the country, but boy, the Cyclones have had some real issues with charges here today. They've been running over these Baylor defenders, and the guards doing a great job of moving their feet, but once again, Stone Dubar just running over Davion Mitchell.
Davion Mitchell and Jared Butler. Every time I've been at a Baylor shoot-around, when they're on the road, they both run in before everybody else does. Mitchell goes and grabs the ball and hits the first shot. They have a ton of energy. Love playing together. Davion Mitchell he's an animal. Nice shot from Maceo Teague.
That's such a tough shot. Good defense by Rasheer Bolton and Maceo Teague. Just going right over the top with a smaller Bolton and elevating, getting to his pull-up jump shot.
Young working on foul. They like this matchup early in the game and gets a foul call.
This is just really good basketball here by Maceo Teague. Understanding personnel, getting to a spot, the Big 12 logo, and just elevating right over the top of Rasheer Bolton.
Solomon Young, kind of like Mark Vidal, just feels like he's been around a long time. Redshirt senior from Sacramento, California. It's his 5th year at Iowa State. Battled some injuries, but when he's been on the court for them, he has always been solid. Flagler out there with Teague and Mitchell, Matthew Meyer and Vidal for Baylor. Flagler, air balls, Vidal can't keep it in.
Iowa State's guards, and I've said this a couple times here today, they're really containing the bounce, and again, they force Baylor into a tough shot.
Iowa State giving Baylor all they can handle, down just 3:57 to play in the first half. There's a very highly rated recruit, Xavier Foster, out of Oskaloosa, Iowa. We see the shirts, the Black Lives Matter and the United shirts that these teams are wearing, and a moment of reflection before the game. We see that across the country. A lot of great stories from what these athletes have done, just using their platform and their voice. Iowa State is off to a great start against this Baylor team.
We really got to commend Iowa State's defense here today, Chucky, for holding Baylor to 0 of 6 from 3. I mean, you're talking about the best three-point shooting team by percentage in all of college basketball, shooting almost 46% from 3 on the year. I think Steve Prohm's ball club has done an excellent job of contesting every shot from the perimeter.
10 Baylor turnovers. You mentioned they average just 11.5 a game. Hear that? That is dead silence inside Hilton Coliseum.
It's certainly different because this is, we talked about it earlier, it's one of my favorite places to come, and just to see this place really empty. There's 1,500 fans in attendance today. It doesn't feel right. But with that being said, with everything that's going on, it is good to have basketball going on.
Rolls out from Vital and a foul called. I think they got Trey Jackson on the rebound. It hasn't been pretty, but let's take another look at this. Mark Vital is such a incredible athlete.
He's such an interesting player, right? Because you look at a box score's never going to do him justice. He's a guy that affects the game. He's an elite defensive player. He can switch 1 through 5. And we were talking this morning kind of about player comparisons, and they call him Baby Rico Gathers. I'm not sure he's that good of a rebounder, as good of a rebounder as Rico Gathers was, but man, he reminds me in a way of Dennis Rodman, because Rodman could play the 1 through 5. Now, he's nowhere near the rebounder that Rodman was, but just a guy that's so willing to embrace his role and do whatever it takes for Baylor to win. Those are guys that you need to have on a championship caliber team, and that's what Baylor is.
Who was your, let's take it back to Purdue. Who was your Purdue comparison?
I mean, Chris Kramer was a guy who was unheralded offensively, but really could move the basketball, understood what we were doing, was a great screener, and then defensively, he's a 4-time all Big Ten defensive team type guy, a Big Ten defensive player of the year, and that's really kind of like Mark Vital, because he is that level of a defender, and he doesn't care if he scores, he just cares about Baylor winning.
It's funny, you told me Kramer this morning, so I looked back at his numbers, and it really is, oh, Mitchell missed a wide open layup. But it really did fit perfectly, because Kramer, I think, on his career averaged like 6 points and 3 rebounds. But if you look at the minutes and the games that he played, clearly was out there for a reason.
No, he was an elite defensive player, right? You're totally right about Davion Mitchell right there. He did everything but score the basketball, got right to the rim, and Mark Vital picks up his 3rd foul, going for that rebound, and both teams find themselves in a bit of foul trouble here with 3:13 left in the first half.
Steve Prohm might have wanted it to look better, but as far as the script goes and where they are, I got to think he's happy.
He'll absolutely take the result, and they weathered the early storm, and defensively they've been very good.
Mitchell not going to miss that one.
That's a tough matchup. Darlington Dubar has no chance to contain Davion Mitchell off the bounce, and you're right, Chucky, not going to miss 2 in a row.
Bolton working on Mitchell. He is everywhere.
Davion Mitchell really moves his feet.
Solomon Young going baseline. Fades in, hits it. I think that was a good no call there. I thought John Machachua
kind of Higgins getting him for a flopping warning. That was a really good no call. And you're John Machachua, you've got to move your feet there and do a better job than that. That was a total sellout on that play.
Higgins had a real good look at it right there.
Solomon Young has been really effective here, scoring the ball, whether it's been Flo Thamba or Jonathan Chamachachua. You said earlier, Chuck, he is totally accurate. He's just been so solid for his Iowa State career.
2:30 to play, and the Cyclones trail the number 2 team by now 3 after Mitchell maybe starting to heat up.
Just his ability to stop on a dime right there on display. And Trey Jackson honestly had no chance to contest that shot.
They've got all 4 of those extraordinary guards on the floor right now. Bolton cannot find anywhere. Pulls up, and Teague got the rebound.
I think another good no call there.
Yeah. Chachua has kind of a mismatch underneath. Didn't get it to him. Teague going at Solomon Young. Coleman lands. Iowa State happy to slow it down right now.
A good decision by Jalen Coleman lands. I like probing the defense, but when you see nothing's there, take it out, run your offense, and find an open layup.
How to find a way to get that in. They do. Jaden Walker, that was almost a nightmare at the end of a really nice look.
Those shot blockers are coming, and Jaden Walker, a guy who against Jackson State gets 22 minutes, didn't play against West Virginia, didn't play against Kansas State, and you're right, that would have been a disaster had he not scored that look.
And a travel. Steve Prohm called it for Antonio Petty.
I like Iowa State's energy right now. Their bench is into it, and rightfully so with the way they defended. Turnovers have been an issue today, but when they've had a set defense, they've done a great job on this Baylor half-court offense.
Baylor has led by 10 or more points in 7 of their 8 games at halftime. Bolton just handed that to Davion Mitchell. Look at him fly down the court.
Well, that just can't happen. You know, your defense has done a great job in the half court, and you're just handing Baylor points when they're struggling to score. Certainly Rajir Bolton not trying to mishandle that basketball, but those are mistakes you can't make if you're trying to beat a team like Baylor.
And Jared Butler, they see Jaden Walker handling the ball, and
it's blood in the water.
It was.
It's sharks circling right here, and you could see it in these Baylor guards' eyes. They're just going to heat him up, and Jaden Walker, welcome to the big time. Baylor really bringing the pressure and forcing things on the defensive end of the floor.
And that's just knowing your matchups right there.
Absolutely, and it's amazing how when you see a good defender, and his eyes kind of light up like Jared Butler's did right there.
Baylor's closest game of the season was a 13-point win over Illinois, which they led by 1 at halftime.
Baylor's an interesting team, and I think that they deserve all of the accolades for as well as they've played, but I think we know a lot more about this team had they gotten to play Villanova and Arizona State and Gonzaga, and Scott Drew certainly beefed the schedule up for his personnel, which he should have done, and COVID-19 has had other ideas. But we're going to really find out a lot about this group here as Big 12 play gets underway.
Iowa State can take the last shot of the half. And Bolton does a nice job to get it to Solomon Young. 10 to shoot. Trey Jackson might have been tipped and rolls out. And now Baylor has a chance. Flagler to Maceo Teague. Pulls up from long range. Airballs it. And Baylor leads by just 4. It was really just a hard-nosed energy fight from Iowa State that kept them in it.
Iowa State, Steve Prohm is going to be incredibly happy with the defensive effort. They've got to clean up the turnovers. You've got to stop having turnovers for touchdowns with this Baylor. These Baylor guards are getting out in the passing lanes. They're heating up some of their guards. Iowa State weathered the storm with some of the foul trouble issues they had. Overall, Steve Prohm going to be very happy with the result of what happened here in the first half.
Baylor is averaging 95 points per game. Iowa State held them to just 36 in the first half, but the Bears do lead 36-32 halftime. Coming up from Hilton Coliseum. Ames, Iowa, a freezing day. Iowa State, though, hanging tight to number 2 Baylor, 36-32 our score inside Hilton Coliseum. And although it was not pretty, it is a game here at halftime alongside Robbie Hummel. I'm Chucky Kemp. It was really just this fight from Iowa State that kept them in it.
Well, maybe those freezing cold temperatures had something to do with the shooting for Baylor on the floor. 0 for 6 in the first half, but Iowa State's defense really did a nice job of containing the bounce at most times, keeping themselves out of rotation. I was really impressed with Steve Prohm's ball club. When they've been able to set their defense and haven't turned it over, they've done a nice job of guarding this Baylor attack. And you see Jared Butler here trying to get it going on Trey Jackson. Jackson moves his feet. There were a couple possessions where we really were impressed with the way they handled Baylor's actions. You see multiple pick and rolls right here. You handle each of them. The ball moves. Doesn't matter. Swings over again. Now it's Rasheer Bolton's turn on Maceo Teague. Another great possession defensively, or situation defensively by another guard. And now you get Davion Mitchell at the end of this shot clock, forced to take a contested three-pointer. Mark Vidal sells the call, gets an Academy Award. Their defense was really good for Iowa State. Davion Mitchell, though, has been the one Baylor Bear who felt like has gotten it going. In transition, I talked about how well Iowa State contained off the bounce. Davion Mitchell was the one guy that in the first half was able to get away from that and get to the rim.
What will we see differently from Baylor offensively to try and attack this Iowa State defense as we see the first half numbers? The shooting wasn't terrible, but they just didn't get any shots up because there were 24 total turnovers.
I think that you'll see Scott Drew just stay with what they've done. You know, this is an experienced group. You've got experienced guards. Maybe you run a few other sets that you haven't seen in the first half, but for the most part, Baylor is let these guards play pick and roll and let them create. And you're going to keep saying that because Jared Butler, Davion Mitchell, and Maceo Teague are three elite guards.
Scott Drew looking for his 351st win at Baylor. Iowa State looking for a nice start to the second half. Javen Johnson.
Tough shot by Javen Johnson with Mark Vidal defending. And I think if you told Steve Prohm you're going to turn it over 13 times, have 5 guys with 2 fouls, almost all of them significant contributors, you look at the scoreboard and say, well, how much are we down? And to be down just 2 right now, have to give Iowa State a ton of credit.
Butler off the screen from Vidal, and there it is, the first 3 of the game for Baylor, who has had 10-plus in 6 of their 8 games.
That was just a matter of time. Jared Butler is way too good a shooter to keep missing shots like that. He had some good looks in the first half and gets a good one there, knocks it down on the pick and roll.
Young into Bolton, a little bit late and blocked away by Maceo Teague.
Great help defense by Maceo Teague. A tough act to defend.
Butler again. Rebound Mitchell. Teague will take one. And back-to-back threes for Baylor.
Looks like the seal's been broken now, and Maceo Teague, a really mature play. Shot fake, let that defender fly by and get a wide-open look.
We saw this in the Illinois game. It was a 1-point game at halftime. It was tied around the 10-minute mark, and then Baylor just exploded. Butler all by himself. 8-0 run in a minute 29 seconds.
The Baylor Bears have come alive. Jared Butler comes off the ball screen, finds himself with a good look, knocks it down. And then good defense by Flo Thamba starting the break. Jared Butler going upstairs.
Well, Jared Butler starting to knock down the threes for Baylor. That 10-point lead was built quickly, an 8-0 run in just a minute 30.
It was just a matter of time. These Baylor guards are so talented. Jared Butler started it with that pick and roll, and Iowa State a little lazy on their heads that time. The big was back. Butler knocks it down, and Maceo Teague, an explosive score, and a guy that's really scored the ball at a high level the last 4 games, 18 points per game, and shooting 46% from 3 coming into today.
Iowa State looking for their first basket here in the second half. A foul called on Bolton's drive. They're just 4 points, 1 of 6 from the field. 4 rebounds, 3 assists in the first half. One of 5 Iowa State players with at least 2 fouls.
Steve Prohm can't believe that this is not a shooting foul. I mean, he's incredulous over that. I thought Rasheer Bolton was going up to shoot that basketball as well, but officials saying it was on the floor.
Look to Trey Jackson, couldn't get the shot off.
They missed Solomon Young there. I thought they could have thrown him the basketball, maybe had an opportunity to shoot.
Can't get the roll. Here comes Mark Vidal. Looks surprised by it, but says, all right, I'll run the point. Maceo Teague. We talked about it before the game. You saw it in the warm-ups with that little hitch in his shot. Anything where he sets, he has that little hitch, and it kind of slowed him down there.
Well, it's going to be really hard for him, especially at the next level, when you talk about shooting a pull-up jumper and you have to set yourself with that hitch. Now, he's shooting a great percentage. By no means would you change that, but it is certainly interesting to see a guy shoot the ball that well with shot mechanics like that.
Bolton, and that time Mitchell's called for a block.
I think Baylor Bears fans are well acquainted with this jump shot and shooting over 38% from three this year, but not as substantial in his pull-up jumper. But when he's a catch-and-shoot guy, it's very obvious that he does hitch that jumper.
On the way up, there's just a little kind of click at the midway point. Bolton's fouled on the drive again.
He really attacked Flo Thamba right there. And a wise decision by Rasheer Bolton. You see Jonathan Chamwa-Chachua come back in. Thamba has stayed in foul trouble at times this season, but you see just going right after Flo Thamba, and he has no chance but to foul. He's behind on that play.
Baylor defending the inbound well. Iowa State has to burn a timeout. There are 3 team fouls on Baylor already.
Scott Drew will like that. They walked through Iowa State's out-of-bounds plays for about 20 minutes last night, so work paying off for the Baylor Bears and doing a nice job there. Just nowhere to go for Iowa State.
Baylor last year, the season gets cut short in a season like that for a program like Baylor, who's been good, who's been really solid under Scott Drew, but maybe not elite like that. I mean, they were
that was their
maybe
best
the
team.
favorites.
That was their best team that I think Baylor has had, definitely in the Scott Drew era and probably in their history of playing college basketball. But it's just, I mean, there's so many teams that were affected by it. Think about Rutgers, who hasn't made the NCAA tournament in 25 years. Think about Penn State, who's a second weekend team, and now, think about how much that's changed for Pat Chambers. He's not even the coach there anymore. Yeah. So certainly everybody was affected, but at least for Baylor, the majority of the guys come back. You lose Bandu, you lose Freddie Gillespie, but honestly, Adam Flagler hasn't played well today, but I think he might be an upgrade off the bench. And Chamwa-Chachua he's an outstanding big off the bench.
Are they better this year?
I think they are. I think they're going to end up being better this season just because of the improvement their guards have made. Now, they haven't looked better today. They certainly had some issues that Scott Drew's going to be able to take to the film room, but I do think that they're better this season.
Still up 10. Iowa State needs some buckets. Bolton looking for help. Found a really good shooter wide open, and Coleman Lands won't miss many of those.
Right now, Baylor's bigs are doing themselves a disservice in their pick-and-roll defense. Jonathan Chamwa-Chachua making the same mistake that Flo Thamba just made, and again, Raj Bolton really attacking that ball screen and getting one for Jalen Coleman Lands.
Inside, and rebound for Coleman Lands. Doesn't have numbers, wants to run it a little bit. Back to him, Bolton. He's wide open. And can't get it. That would have been a big shot for the Cyclones.
That was a horse shot. There was nobody coming to close out on Rasheer Bolton right there. And a missed opportunity for Iowa State.
COT sizing up Johnson. Nice defense by Javen Johnson. Teague finally found an opening. Chamwa-Chachua. And one chance for the sophomore.
Scott Drew talked about it last night, just how hard Jonathan Chamwa-Chachua has worked to become the player that he is. The UNLV transfer, keeping this one alive, getting it going on the offensive board, taking some contact, and now the opportunity for a three-point play.
Baylor leads Iowa State 46-37. Jonathan Chamwa-Chachua, sophomore from Cameroon, a transfer from UNLV. How did he get here? He was born in Cameroon, lived a few years in Australia, played some high school ball there, then came to UNLV in Las Vegas, on to Waco. You've done some traveling. Could we do that map for Robbie Hummel?
All but Cameroon, yeah.
Okay.
I've been to those places. I've been so impressed with his improvement. Scott Drew talked about last night when he first arrived. At times, just catching the basketball was something they had to work with him. But the work ethic he's had and the time he's put in, and if you watch the Kansas State game, he looks like a guy that can play in the NBA. He's a guy that's a great athlete, certainly has a great motor, and he at times has been their best option at the 5.
Tough shot from Javen Johnson.
Was really well defended by Adam Flagler, and you're right, Javen Johnson just going up and making a play.
I wonder how much value is there for guys like Adam Flagler and Chachua who come from different programs but get to sit and watch. And obviously you probably wouldn't want to as a player have to sit and watch a year, but into a program like Baylor that's so well-rounded and get to kind of see what your role might be that following year.
I think Baylor's done a phenomenal job of utilizing that year to sit out. It's going to be interesting as the rule changes with the NCAA, and on a great defensive possession there by the Baylor Bears, but as that rule changes, it's going to be really interesting to see how that kind of affects the development of some of these transfers they've had. They've done a nice job of developing talent.
Also had a top 60 recruit on ESPN's 100 list. We have a technical foul called on Jared Butler.
John Higgins just walked over and kind of gave us the hand motion that he was yapping a little too much. So Jared Butler just a little over aggressive there talking to John Higgins.
Bolton connects on both.
I wonder if he said something when he blocked the shot. It didn't look like he said anything to the refs.
I actually saw a video on Twitter this week of something similar of a guy saying something after blocking a shot.
Was it, as you see Matthew Meyer get to the basket, was it Pete Nance from Northwestern?
It was, yeah.
That's a weak technical foul. I really take issue with that, because you could call that every time down the floor, and actually in that same game, an Iowa player had said it earlier.
Yeah. Not that we can, it wasn't anything bad. There's nothing we can say, but basically, get that out of here.
It
after a block shot.
It should not be attacked.
Flagler in some trouble. 6 to shoot from ACO Teague. Kamwa Chachua at the screen. Teague has 2 to shoot. Solomon Young all over him. They're not going to get a shot off.
Solomon Young doing an excellent job of moving his feet at the end of that possession. And Adam Flagler was a little out of sorts today. He has not scored, and that's a guy that's averaging almost 13 a game for Baylor. And he's made a 3 in every college game he's played in 42 straight games. And that's an incredible number. And right now, that streak is in jeopardy.
A big offensive possession for Iowa State, down just 6. Johnson trying to cut it in half, and he does.
David Johnson getting a switch, and Flo Thamba late coming out. Scott Drew going to take a timeout and talk this over. Iowa State coming roaring back. At times, Baylor can get lost with some pointing and switching where they're not switching on contact. And right there, Flo Thamba just a little bit late to that party. David Johnson shooting that 3 with confidence, and all of a sudden, Iowa State is right back in this game.
Johnson, you see his right hand there, that's his shooting hand. He had that taped. Had a little bit of an issue with one of his fingers on his shooting hand, and that was taped the last couple games. And he really was struggling from three on the season, just 6 of 31, which is under 20%. That finger isn't taped today. You wonder if that was just bothering him just a little bit. Now maybe getting some confidence back. He's 2 for 2 from deep.
This issue for most of this season has been the turnovers, and he does have 5 today, but he's almost been perfect from the field and has really been good shooting the ball.
Butler almost lost that. And Iowa State keep it up out of this timeout. Flagler for three. And rebound Solomon Young, foul called. This is going to go on Mark Vidal, and that's his fourth.
Iowa State has not been a great defensive rebounding team on the year, but with Baylor coming in here as one of the top offensive rebounding teams in college basketball, Solomon Young doing a nice job of blocking out there. Mark Vidal picking up a tough fourth foul.
Just get the feeling every second that this clock ticks with Iowa State just a couple possessions down, their confidence is skyrocketing.
Boy, the ultimate respect to Javen Johnson. Look who took him right there. Davion Mitchell.
He about hit that right in front of Mitchell, but a great closeout. And here comes Davion. Flagler wants another one. He cannot hit right now from three.
He's just looked out of sync. Couldn't get it going in the first half, and now two really bad misses from three.
Bad pass there. You're looking at Coleman Lands, who was open, but just wasn't through that passing lane. T going to work. Foul called against Coleman Lands, his third.
Turnovers have just been such an Achilles heel for this Iowa State Cyclones ball club. And you're right, Chucky. The idea is there. You can make that pass, but you can't throw it on a frozen rope through that defense. There's going to be some air under that ball, and there wasn't anything there. Really, Iowa State lucky that Baylor unable to convert.
Butler three, no good. Rebound Bolton. Here Bolton, nice defense. You almost cannot drive on Davion Mitchell.
He's an elite defender. There's no doubt about that.
Bolton splits the defense, lays it up and in, a 1-point game.
That was really smooth by Rasheer Bolton, just splitting the pick and roll, and the help side defense for Baylor nowhere to be found. Bolton getting right to the rack.
That's poked away. George Condit has it, and a wild pass. Steve Prohm quickly says, hey, we're all right.
Rasheer Bolton splitting this ball screen. Flo Thamba, he's got cement in those shoes, and all of a sudden Iowa State's come roaring back. Javen Johnson has really given Iowa State a boost scoring the basketball. 12 points today. Came into today shooting just 19% from three, but has made two big threes in this game here in the second half. Does have 6 turnovers, but scoring the ball and bringing them back here in the second half as Baylor made their run to stretch that lead to 9. Javen Johnson's been a big part of that.
Decatur, Alabama product, averaging just under 10 points per game. Mentioned the three-point percentage, about 19.5 coming into this game. Averaging 10.5 points last year. Troy as George Condit sends Davion Mitchell's shot flying.
Those are the types of plays, Chucky, where you just ask, why can't George Condit be more effective and get more minutes? I mean, this is a play designed for Davion Mitchell to have the whole left side cleared out, and George Condit just erases that shot.
Three minutes without a Baylor bucket. T gets his own rebound, but it's poked away. And the Cyclones looking to take their first lead since the 9:20 mark. Bolton gets his own rebound. Back to work on Thamba, and he scores it.
Rasheer Bolton just wanted that more than every Baylor defender out on that play. He was relentless going to the basket, kept it alive, and then a tough finish over the top of Flo Thamba.
Trying to go through Davion Mitchell. Condit gets switched on to him, and a foul called. Mitchell gets the bucket.
I guess that sort of answers my question. You know, that's a play where George Condit needs to square up Davion Mitchell. Mitchell's killed his bounce. Rasheer Bolton, though, in transition, and then the relentless attack. A really impressive finish over the top of Flo Thamba. And here's that foul. You know, you've got Davion Mitchell stuck. He's picked up his dribble. He's got nowhere to go. And credit Mitchell for finding a way, but that's a play where George Condit's got to be solid.
Might add Johnson right off the rip there on that back screen. Trey Jackson back to Johnson. Likes the baseline and hits another shot.
Boy, it's amazing how confidence can affect players. And right now, Javen Johnson has got it going on the offensive end of the floor. That was a tough pull-up, a contested shot, and Johnson just rises up and knocks it down.
Butler almost lost it. Kicks it out. Flagler has to track it down at midcourt. 10 to shoot. Teague on Johnson. Foul called as Maceo Teague was driving, and it goes against Rozier Bolton. That's his third.
Much has been said about Javen Johnson coming into today with the shooting struggles, and you've got Davion Mitchell and also Flo Thamba contesting that jump shot. Johnson has had a nice afternoon scoring the ball.
Teague's first one off the mark. Leads the team with 16 points per game, an 89% free throw shooter. Cyclones trying to get set in direct traffic. Bolton driving. Johnson open again. Oh my goodness, how do you lose him?
Baylor has had some serious issues now defending the pick and roll. Rozier Bolton is getting wherever he wants on the floor, and with that breakdown on the ball, David Johnson finds himself all alone again.
Condit blocks the shot. Thamba in trouble, and that falls. What a shot by Flo Thamba.
Thamba, not a guy that's necessarily known for his offensive prowess here, but does a really nice job staying in the play. The pick and roll defense for Baylor has certainly been an issue. Rozier Bolton is getting whatever he wants. Javen Johnson the beneficiary, and how about Flo Thamba just staying with this right here. A big bucket for Baylor.
I don't know how he kept his pivot foot down in all that traffic, but connects and puts the Bears back on top. That has to be part of what's so daunting. We talked about the bench, but something like that from Thamba, who you really, like you said, don't expect to have that happen, but on great teams, it just finds a way.
Well, there's also just no fall off. You know, when they sub, it's almost like sometimes in certain situations they just get better. And that's why this Baylor team is so tough to deal with.
It's missed. He really didn't even look at the hoop. He kind of was in his shot motion before he knew where he was. Teague driving on him, and nice finish.
That's a beautiful left-hand finish, high off the glass. And Maceo Teague hasn't had his most impressive half scoring the basketball or game scoring the ball, but man, that was a nice-looking bucket.
Timeout on the floor.
Maceo Teague getting a matchup he likes, with George Condit certainly wise to go right to the basket. Left-hand finish by Maceo Teague, a really thing of beauty.
Teague has 11. The two biggest things when you look at the box score is missed threes. Butler and Flagler combined for 1 for 9. Mitchell's got 13 but hasn't hit a three. Iowa State that was a timeout for Iowa State, which is their final timeout of the game. So now Steve Prohm has to rely on a group that there's some experience out there, but also a lot of youth to know what to do down the stretch.
You talked about this earlier in the game, Chucky, about this is a team in Iowa State that needed to play these games. And the fact that they've only played 6 on the year, they've been decimated by COVID cancellations. And this is a group that's really trying to break in a lot of transfers, freshmen, and certainly some experienced pieces like Jalen Coleman-Lands, but still with a summer of COVID, these guys didn't get to play together all summer, fall. It's been a weird offseason. So I think as the season goes on and they get to play more, you're going to see this Iowa State team improve and really do so maybe faster than you'd see teams that in the past have gotten to be together all year.
I think it's hard for people to understand how important the summer and fall are for young players, freshmen especially, but everyone. What's it like when you get on campus that first time as a freshman, when you went to Purdue? What are those first few months like?
Well, you're just acclimating, to everything. The weight room, the level of play, the difference in recovery you have to have as a player. It's a challenge. And these guys that, Baylor certainly brings a lot of guys back. Iowa State doesn't have that luxury. A lot of new faces, and it's just a totally different animal.
Davion Mitchell just picked up his 4th foul.
Tough foul to go against him. That should have been a travel.
And that is huge because it seems like when Baylor's been stuck offensively, they've went to him. Obviously, he's a huge defensive stopper. Coleman lands for 3.
Boy, Baylor is fortunate. At times, their defense, they like to point and switch, and that can get you in trouble. Matt Meyer right there, nowhere close to Jalen Coleman lands.
That's an easy call right there. Butler looking for Flagler. Break down the point and switch for us. What exactly are you talking about?
Usually when you see coaches teaching a switching defense, you're switching on contact. When your man goes and sets a screen, we're together, we come together, we switch the ball screen. A lot of times, and Baylor gets away with it because they're great in recovery and they're experienced and they're smart, but there's a lot of pointing and switching where if you're not on it, you can really get slipped and get kind of disconnected from your man.
Flagler kicks it out. Teague on the run.
Baylor's had some looks that normally over the course of this season they've made. And that's a good look from Maceo Teague.
Coleman Lands might have traveled again. Solomon Young has it taken away by Matthew Meyer. Baylor wants to reset. Meyer to the hoop. What a feed. And can't get the finish by Chamwa Chachua. Meyer with a little slip pass.
Matthew Meyer's eyes lit up when he saw Solomon Young. And this is a tough mismatch defensively for Iowa State. And Meyer showing off that talent. That's probably one where Jonathan Chamwa Chachua wishes he could maybe have back.
A lot of great matchups for Matthew Meyer. He's got some size. He's not fast, but he's certainly not slow.
He's a good athlete. Matthew Meyer is a really talented guy. I think just from watching him over the course of his career, and then you see him in person, he's got great size. He's a really good athlete. I think there's some things that he's learning really from a maturity standpoint with his game, or what it takes to be a great player, and what a weapon he is for Scott Drew coming off the bench.
Bolton picked up his dribble. Baylor on a 7-0 run of the last couple minutes.
Chamwa Chachua really moving his feet right there. That was well done.
Hesitation, Bolton to the hoop, and he rejects it. Butler for 3, good. Jared Butler in the corner.
That's defense creating offense. That's Jonathan Chamwa Chachua really moving his feet, and then great transition offense, the extra pass to Jared Butler in the corner.
Iowa State needs a bucket. Coleman lands. Did it go off his own foot? It did. That's what the referee says.
Chamwa Chachua getting this Baylor offense going. Elite defense right here, moving his feet, taking this one off the board, and then Baylor's off to the races. The extra pass. Jared Butler knocking down the corner triple.
Take a look at that last play here. Coleman lands dribbling. It looks like that goes off Jared Butler's foot.
Well, Jalen Coleman lands immediately didn't like the call and was even asking for a review. Obviously, that's not possible unless it's under 2 minutes in the second half. But, boy, a break for Baylor, and certainly both teams in some heavy foul trouble here. That's definitely a story. Mark Vital and Davion Mitchell both with 4. Solomon Young with 4 for Iowa State. And then multiple Iowa State players with 3. So something to keep your eye on as this game kind of unfolds throughout the next 7-12.
Crone talked about not turning it over and giving Baylor easy buckets. They turned it over 17 times, so they got 15 of those back. The other thing was defending the three, and that's what Iowa State has done really well. Baylor just 20%, 3 of 15 today. Maceo Teague off the mark. Shamwa Chachua tips it out of bounds.
That doesn't go, but that was an incredible pass from Jared Butler to get that over to Maceo Teague for that type of look in the corner. Over George Condit's wingspan, that was really nice.
No timeouts for Iowa State. As a player on the floor, down 8 against this caliber of a team, do players break it down, or does the coach try to break it down into segments? Hey, the next 4 minutes to that next media timeout, this is what we need to do.
Well, certainly you need to chip away, but I'm sure that none of the Iowa State players are maybe they're aware that they don't have any timeouts to know that they can't call one, but they're not worried about that. You're worried about playing and trying to chip away at what Baylor's done.
Some stops, but they'll connect at the other end recently. Haven't scored in 4 minutes. Matthew Meyer inside. Foul called. Let's see who they got here. Coleman Lands has 3. If it's on him, it'll be his 4th. And I think they actually got Condit, his 3rd. Puts Matthew Meyer on the line, the junior from Austin, Texas. 69% free throw shooter. Connects on the first. Coming for Baylor fans on Big 12 Now on ESPN Plus on the women's side. The 7th ranked Baylor Bears taking on Kansas on Wednesday, January 13th. TCU, Baylor men on the 6th of February, and then this rematch on the 23rd of February. All that on ESPN Plus. Just a 9-point game. Solomon Young tipped by Maceo Teague and saved by Trey Jackson, making his season debut. Back iron, Coleman Lands tips it, but Shamwa Chachua catches it. Anything change for Baylor down the stretch in a close game? Just keep chipping away.
Well, they have elite guards. And at the end of the game, it's time for Jared Butler, Davion Mitchell, and Maceo Teague to go to work and make plays. That's the luxury they have, is that they can just do what they do throughout the course of a game. End of game, they're not changing anything. And Jared Butler right there just getting to a spot, knocking it down.
We'll say, even through some of the frustrations this game, they never looked rattled. And same with Illinois. In that game, they just never looked like anything was wrong. Matthew Meyer might have taken a shot there, but a nice finish by Solomon Young.
That was high level from Solomon Young, going up through contact, and Matthew Meyer coming over to contest. Solomon Young knocking it home.
Snaps a little Baylor run that they were on. And ripped away by Bolton. Has options. Bolton taking it himself, and he finishes it with the left hand.
That was great help side defense. Roger Bolton just digging that out. And how about Trey Jackson with the effort right here?
Cyclones not done just yet.
Roger Bolton totally digging out this post play from Shamwa Chachua and then getting to Matt Meyer's body. Trey Jackson, what a great effort to steal a possession here. When Iowa State needed a spark, they've found ways to hang in this game. They will not go away.
Stop things for Baylor to make a substitution. Not sure exactly what that was. There's definitely some commotion, though. And Vital ends up coming in with 4 fouls. Coleman Lands from the elbow. Fade away.
What a big-time step back. You talk about covering some ground. And Jalen Coleman Lands doing just that. Iowa State, again, hanging around.
crowd on their feet. Eight to shoot. Butler, tough three. Rims out. Here comes Bolton. Wants to go quickly. Almost lost it there. Bolton's tough shot. Solomon Young keeping it alive. What a rebound. Can't get the putback.
Well, you can't fault Solomon Young's effort right there. He really went after that offensive rebound.
Baylor slowing things down. We'll have one more media timeout at our next stoppage. Teague on Solomon Young, likes this matchup. Does take a really tough shot, though. Bolton, that's just a bad pass. And Solomon Young has to foul Jared Butler. That is it for Solomon Young. A couple passes like that, they turned it over a lot, but there's been a handful of those that are just really sloppy ones. Iowa State down just 5. That's it for Solomon Young. 15 points for Solomon Young, 4 rebounds. He definitely had an impact on this game, and can they finish the job without him with 3 minutes to go? But that's a big loss.
It is, and an unforced error there. Rasheer Bolton has done some really good things here in the second half, but just a bad decision. Jared Butler was sitting on that play, and you put Solomon Young in a situation where really, if he doesn't foul there, Jared Butler's off to the races.
Iowa State down just 5 at home at Hilton Coliseum, and we're sitting in the break, and there's definitely energy in here, but on any other given day against the number 2 team in the country, this place would be rocking.
Not the same, and that's an obvious statement, but this place would be absolutely going nuts, and it's certainly sad because we've both seen this place at its best, but hopefully it won't be too much longer where fans will be back in buildings and things will be back to normal, and I think we both can say we can't wait for that.
The best home court advantages in America. Bolton, tough shot. What a shot from Rasheer Bolton.
Boy, if you're Macy Teague, you tip your cap to Rasheer Bolton, you go down and play offense. That was a big-time shot.
Lead just 5. Baylor keeping him at arm's length at the moment. 6 to shoot. They get Coleman Lands for a foul late in the shot clock. That's his 4th, and man, that is just not what Steve Prohm wanted. He's upset about it too.
Steve Prohm not happy about the screen set up top. He thought it was illegal on Trey Jackson, but really a smart play by Jared Butler to turn that ball screen down and drive it right into the defender's right side. Get yourself to the foul line.
Missed the free throw, but it's a double bonus. Chacha was ready to grab the rebound and put it back. Baylor hadn't had a field goal in 3 minutes. Every possession so important right now for Iowa State. Almost thrown away. Oh, Bolton just a bad decision.
Well, a predetermined thought. He came off that screen thinking, I'm throwing this to the corner, expecting that help side to come. It didn't. And you throw it right to Davion Mitchell.
19 turnovers for Iowa State, but they'll look back at about 3 or 4 and think, oh man. Vital spinning. Rims out. Chachua puts it back in.
What a grown man rebound by Chachua. That's a huge play, and credit Mark Vital for getting to the basket, unable to finish it, but Chachua putting it home.
Jonathan Chachua with some big buckets and rebounds today. 7 points, 10 rebounds. Steve Prohm's barking orders from the sideline.
Well, you almost feel like maybe Davion Mitchell would have been the guy to foul if you were going to do it. Obviously, you don't do it now, but Jared Butler makes that three, and you have to think this game, that's a dagger by Jared Butler.
Butler has 21, a travel called. And the Baylor Bears are trying to wrap this thing up.
Well, it was just a matter of time with Jared Butler. How about the pass, though? Davion Mitchell getting deep into the paint and finding Jared Butler, who knocks down a monster three for Baylor.
Foul Maceo Teague. Scott Drew picks up his 351st win at Baylor. But overall, with a win today, will tie his dad for Division I coaching wins at 371 for Scott. And I know you have a special relationship with the Drew family, but I'm certain for Scott that's a big milestone.
Absolutely, and I know Homer has got to be so proud of the job that Scott has done here. He's certainly rebuilt this program into a powerhouse, and now you look at what Baylor's got. They are a legitimate national championship contender.
Certainly would have had a chance last year, and I guess my question to you is the matchup everyone wanted to see was Gonzaga-Baylor, which was canceled. Do you foresee that matchup when it's all said and done?
I think it's totally possible. To me, they're the two by far best teams I've seen this year. I think you could make a case for maybe Villanova, Tennessee to sneak into that top tier, but it's Baylor and Gonzaga in a class by themselves. They have been excellent this year, and it's honestly a shame that game was canceled.
Mitchell off the mark, but just 15 seconds to play. You do see that tier, though, don't you, with Gonzaga, Baylor, and then you think Nova, Tennessee maybe trying to get up there?
Yeah, I think so. I think those are probably the two best teams that would be willing to get into that next tier, but it's definitely clear to me Gonzaga and Baylor are the two best teams in college basketball right now.
Iowa State gave them all they could handle. The Cyclones led at moments. They withstood some runs, fought it back as close as 5 here late in this game. But again, Robbie, Baylor, they just stayed calm through everything. I think they were frustrated at times, but for the most part, they just kind of stuck to it.
They wear you down. They have such depth that they can play with. They have elite guard play. Jared Butler made some big shots. He finishes with 21. Davion Mitchell, to me, was the best player for Baylor in the first half. He wrecked havoc defensively at times. This Baylor team is for real, and I do think we're going to find out a lot about them here coming up. You look at West Virginia, Texas Tech, Kansas, a gauntlet of a schedule for Scott Drew's ball club here coming up.
West Virginia, Texas Tech, Kansas, all right in a row there in the middle of this month. But the Big 12, and I think today as a whole, you get to find out quite a bit with some of these great matchups. For Iowa State, what do you see from them that they can build on from this?
Well, they made some real strides today. I thought that Javen Johnson was really the story offensively, making perimeter shots. He has not done that. Rasheer Bolton played really well, save for the last 4 minutes. He made some critical mistakes, but you know what you're getting from him most of the time. Solomon Young fouling out of the game certainly was not ideal, but I think Iowa State can build on some things here. They gave Baylor all they wanted.
A win for Scott Drew and Baylor. They're 9-0. That'll make us 18 straight weeks in the AP Top 5 dating back to last season. For my partner, Robbie Hummel, our producer, Adam Coppinger, director, Peter Loomis, and our entire fantastic crew, I'm Chucky Kemp saying so long, everyone, from Ames, Iowa.